being single is not a disease. Okay, let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is really prompted by a conversation that I had with a good friend of mine. When I initially met him, he asked me, he was like, are you single? And I was like, yeah, I'm single. And he was like, oh, I'm single too. And he was like, why people be acting like it's a disease or something? And I so relate to that, because that's exactly how people treat being single nowadays. It's like a lot of people will use you being single as an insult. Like say, oh, that's why you single. Like I'm supposed to be insulted. Get out of here. First of all, let's talk about it, okay? I'm an attractive woman. I have a lot going on for myself. If I want to be in a relationship, please believe I could be in a relationship, okay? Let's not get that twisted. So when someone tries to hold over my head or say, use that as a combat, like, oh, well, that's why you single, I find it crazy, because there's so many people who are in relationships for the sake of being in relationships, and they're not even happy. So granted, I could be in a relationship. I could find somebody who wants to be in a relationship with me and go be in a relationship with me. But what am I going to get out of that? Besides companionship and probably a headache, right? So I prefer to actually take my time and actually find someone who I'm equally yoked with. Of course, the Kevin Samuels of the world, they started this new thing where they're like pumping fear into women. Oh, you're gonna grow old alone and all of that other stuff. And I just never like really subscribed to that mentality. I personally feel like God has someone who's out there for me, and when he's ready for me to meet them, we would meet each other. Plus, personally, I've been married before, so been married, got a divorce decree, could write a book about it, okay? Now, granted, my marriage wasn't like the worst marriage, and me and my ex-husband had like a weird relationship to this day. Like, that's still my best friend. Like, that's my nigga. We just cannot be in a relationship with each other. You know, sometimes I say love is not enough. Some people feel like love is enough, but for me, I think otherwise. And I just wanted to have this conversation because I want to speak to all the people who feel like they're less than because they're not in a relationship. There's so many things you can get out of being single, right? You could take time to actually love yourself. You could take time to learn yourself. And I'm speaking that from a perspective of a person who literally, I've been in a relationship for most of my life. After I got a divorce, that was the first time like I really was like, I do not want any relationship. A relationship was like the last thing that I had on my mind. So recently in the past couple of years, I have been open to being in a relationship, but it's like, I don't just want any relationship. I want a relationship that's right for me, you know, and if it means waiting for it, I'm cool with that. Like, and I don't let time scare me, because I think that that's what happens with a lot of people. The clock starts ticking, they start letting time scare them, and then they just jump in a relationship with any and everybody. Now, granted, I've already had my kids. I had my kids young, so that biological clock is not ticking for me. Even when I was young, I never really was the person who like dreamed of being married or even having kids. So the fact that I actually was married and had kids, that just was just how the cards was dealt. But I would have been perfectly fine with waiting until I got older if that's what God saw fit for me. And it's just kind of like society has placed this big taboo on being single. And the thing that a lot of people don't talk about is there are a lot of unhappy people who are married. So just because you're married don't mean you're happy. And one thing I always say is you can't put a price tag on a peace of mind. So personally for me, I'd rather be single until I'm with someone who I'm equally yoked with and the vibe and everything is right. Now granted, when it comes to relationships, you're never gonna have a perfect relationship, but I want a healthy relationship. The goal for me is to have a healthy relationship. There are plenty of people who I know who are in relationships for financial reasons. Actually, I think the main reason a lot of people are in relationship is for financial reasons. Either they can't afford to not be with that person, especially with inflation, the cost of living nowadays. It's understandable. There are plenty of people who are in relationships and feel alone. There's a video that's going viral on TikTok, and this girl is crying because she has to have surgery, and she was just like, oh, you know, she realized that she's alone. She doesn't have someone who's gonna take care of her. And while I empathize with her situation and I understand her situation, there are a lot of women who are married who don't have somebody who's gonna take care of them. Like, people really put this thing like, oh, just because you're in a relationship, you're gonna have someone who take care of them. There's so many women who are in relationships and they get zero help from their husband or spouse. So just because you're in a relationship don't mean you're gonna have all those things you want from a relationship. That's why I think it's better for me to wait until I have someone who's gonna provide the things that I'm looking for in a relationship. Like that type of stability, somebody who's my right hand, someone who has character, who has morals, someone who's financially stable, someone who I would want to grow old with. And I just don't believe in settling. And it's like, fear is what really caused people to settle and rush into these relationships, because it's the fear of being alone. And while that is a reality, I'm willing to take my chances, because at the end of the day, if being alone and having peace is the option compared to not being alone and living in hell, I'm going to choose peace. I'm going to choose my peace, okay? And another joy that a lot of people could find while being alone is get to know yourself. There's a lot of people who's never not been in a relationship, and they don't even really know how to function outside a relationship. And personally, I feel like that type of characteristics is really unhealthy. Being single is the perfect time to find yourself and identifying the things that you want in a relationship, so that when you actually get in a relationship, it'll be a healthy one. Practice self-love. Find out things you like. There's some people who don't even know the things that they like to do. Get a hobby. Travel. Meet new people. Develop happiness within. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're gonna need for a relationship if you expect it to be healthy. A lot of people aren't healthy with themselves, and they think because they get in a relationship is gonna bring them happiness. But no, boo-boo, if you're not happy by yourself, you're not gonna be happy with someone else either. And that's the sad reality that no one really wants to talk about. It's all about, everything is always being pushed with this relationships, and you know, social media plays a big part in that, because you see all the vacations. And while I know how great vacations are, and I want to have those again in the near future, another thing I strive to do is actually take a vacation by myself. Like, I literally admire any person, man or female, who actually goes out of the country or to a place they've never been to by themselves. Like, it's something that seems so liberating in it. And it's something that I haven't been able to do, because I always feel like I need to share that experience with someone. But in actuality, I've robbed myself from being so many places. Like, I love to travel. It's so many places I could have visited, because I have the means, thank God, and the ability to go those places, but I haven't gone because I've been waiting for somebody to come with me. And I hate that for me. I'm missing out on life. Life is not promised. We put so many things off, waiting for something to happen, whether it's waiting for the job, or waiting for the man, or waiting for the raise, or waiting for the kids. And what happens if you don't wake up tomorrow? You didn't live your life to the fullest. And that's the issue on why I struggle with the fact that I have not been able to get enough courage to travel someplace by myself. I recently had a close friend of mine pass, and that really brought everything really to reality for me, because even with that friendship, like, I didn't go see him because I just thought I had time. Like, it was just like, you know, he would hit me up like, hey, what's up? Why you been distant? Why you ain't come check me? And then it's like, oh, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check him after this. And I've had opportunities, but I put it off because I thought I had time. But the reality is, especially with everybody passing, we may not have time. And I don't want to put this fear in you, but I do want to just leave that as food for thought. If you're single, find ways to enjoy your singlehood. Find ways to enjoy yourself. Enjoy living and being alone. I always say, just because I'm alone doesn't mean I'm lonely. And a lot of times people confuse the two. But they aren't synonymous with each other. You could be alone and not lonely. I love living by myself. I really actually hate living with my significant other. I've lived with different men before. I hated it. Every time. I used to really feel like I would never get married because I used to say, oh, I would have to marry somebody who's really rich. And you know, we have different wings and I stay on the west wing and he stay on the east wing because I really don't like having anybody in my space all the time. I really enjoy time alone. And sometimes in marriages or when you have kids, especially if they're babies, it's a struggle to find that time alone. So I just want to say to the people who are alone, find happiness in being alone. And I want to say to the people who put down people who are alone, to just be careful with that, because at the blink of an eye, your situation could change as well. So I just would like to change the stigma about being alone and have everybody really understand that being single is not a disease. That's all I have for now. My name is Faithfully Asia. This is my new channel. In case you may feel like you've seen my face before, I do have another channel. It's called Faithfully Asia, where I do wig reviews. If you're interested in that, I'll have it linked up top in the description box down below. If this topic is something that interests you, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family. And until next time, guys, if it be God's will, I'll see you in my next video. Take care now.